And Tim said, I don't want you to plank anymore.
With so many references and Easter eggs, we're willing to bet that you haven't figured out all the mysteries on this show. These are 10 secrets that you didn't know about Wednesday. Like, did you know that Jenna Ortega choreographed her own dance scene for episode 4 of Wednesday? Yeah, that same dance that would later go viral, being recreated by artists like Lady Gaga. And how did Jenna prepare for it?
I watched videos of goth clubs in the 80s. I watched Siouxsie and the Banshees because she was a reference made.
Jenna took heavy influence from the Siouxsie and the Banshees music video, Funhouse.
I feel kind of bad because I ripped off a couple of her moves.
Jenna unknowingly had COVID while filming the scene, which made her a little surprised to see it blow up online.
It was awful to film, and I asked to redo it, but we didn't have time.
Apparently, she woke up feeling sick, and they had to keep giving her medicine between takes on set. Much like with the choreography, Jenna was entirely new to the cello before being cast, and despite this, she began training with the instrument roughly 2 months before filming began, so that she could actually perform her cello covers of songs like the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black. 2 months may not seem like a whole lot of time to completely master a new instrument, but at least it's more time than she was given to learn German.
I had just started German lessons that week.
This may have been part of the reason why many have pointed out her strong American accent and flubbed pronunciation of German words.
I'm so embarrassed.
While building the character of Wednesday, you might think Jenna would have asked her predecessor Christina Ricci a few questions. After all, she was right there on set, playing the role of Miss Thornhill.
Is there something I can help you find?
A role that actually almost went to actress Thora Birch of Hocus Pocus fame. That is, until she dropped out over creative differences. But when Christina was brought on instead, she didn't want to be too overbearing on Jenna's performance. Well, Jenna didn't want to just copy Christina's take on the character from the 90s. Because of this,
We never talked about her being Wednesday once.
but that doesn't mean the two stars avoided each other completely. In fact, they got along famously.
Jenna, I love. She reminds me of how I was when I was younger.
And Christina said it best.
I really feel like every generation meets their own Wednesday.
And part of updating Wednesday for a new generation meant giving her a whole new look. The costume designer, Colleen Atwood, intended for Wednesday's school uniform to serve as a nod to her original dress, but she also wanted to include a gray and black stripe. And so she had Wednesday's costume hand-painted before silk screening the stripes, giving them a softer look in the end. And when it came to Wednesday's iconic braids, Tim Burton played around with a few ideas, like giving her silver streaks, but Jenna ultimately offered to have her hair actually cut into a fringe.
Maybe just cut my actual hair.
And Tim loved this look so much that it became a permanent part of the character. But Wednesday's costumes weren't the only ones to get a bit of special attention on set. When it came to styling Gwendoline Christie as the mysterious Principle Larissa Weems,
I think contrition might be in order right now, Miss Addams.
Colleen Atwood brought in a vintage poster of Tippi Hedren from The Birds, and she told Gwendoline, "This is who I think you are." And Gwendoline absolutely loved the idea.
I wanted to subvert this idea of the Hitchcock heroine.
She felt that she wasn't exactly the sort of actress who would have been cast in a Hitchcock movie, but wanted to explore what she would look like if she was. The character that Colleen had the most fun styling would actually have to be Wednesday's roommate, Enid, though, whose super bright color palette of pinks and oranges made her a sunny contrast to Wednesday in Colleen's mind. There is definitely a reason why nobody would describe Wednesday as sunny. Still, it would seem that Tim Burton really lucked out when he found Jenna Ortega for the role.
I had been compared to her my entire life.
Jenna remembers being a pretty weird child before going on to explain that she's naturally very dry and sarcastic. And if you need further proof that she's perfect for the role, Jenna had only just finished filming for the horror film X when she first met Tim Burton for her audition. And so, at the time, she was actually covered in stage blood and glycerin sweat.
I got on the Zoom and he actually laughed.
Maybe it just gave him inspiration for the show's sprinkler shower scene. But then again, Tim definitely had a lot of time to consider who he'd have as his perfect Wednesday. Did you know this was actually Tim's third attempt to try and get an Addams Family project off the ground? Yeah. Back in 1991, Tim was actually considered as the director for the first Addams Family film, but he had to turn it down to focus on making Batman Returns. Then again, In 2010, he was approached by Universal to work on a stop-motion animation version of the Addams Family. But the project just never seemed to work out. The Addams Family is clearly a personal story to Tim for a reason.
I think that he sees a lot of himself in Wednesday.
And because of this, he had some pretty unique insights into the character, such as suggesting that Jenna never blink on set. So Tim Burton's unique ideas didn't stop at asking Jenna Ortega not to blink. He also insisted that Thing be played by an actual actor, and so he brought in magician Victor Dorobantu to play the part. Victor was dressed almost entirely in a blue suit so that his body could be edited out. And not only that, but the set actually had to be built in such a way that would allow him to move without being too visible, such as
man-shaped holes in mattresses so that he could lay down and kind of do his thing.
And the production designer, Mark Scruton, compared it to building sets for the Muppets, stating that the set had many trapdoors and secret ways of getting the actors in. And while Jenna Ortega was able to accept the weirdness at the time,
It was really odd, actually, looking back.
honestly, we were kind of wondering how they made that work. But speaking of the set, did you catch all the Easter eggs just sorta hanging around in the background? If you look closely at the back wall of the Weathervane Cafe, you may just notice pictures from Tim Burton's previous movies. There are also plenty of nods made to the original Addams Family TV show, of course, like the fact that the Nightshades code is a double snap. Enid and Wednesday also share a dorm in Ophelia Hall, which is a reference to Morticia's sister from the show. Principal Larissa Weems gets her name from Miss Weems, the family's babysitter from the show. And the stuffed bear that she keeps in her office is meant as a reference to the stuffed bear the family kept in the 60s. But Easter eggs aren't the only thing to look out for amongst the set.
Suppose every artist needs a muse.
How much attention were you paying to the Gargoyles at Nevermore Academy? There are quite a few of them, but the ones in the school's quad are meant to represent the different types of supernatural students in attendance there. Mark Scruton, the production designer, teased that there's even a clue to the mystery hidden away up there. Not only that, but the Gargoyles' faces were sculpted in such a way that their expressions were actually able to change depending on the mood of the scene. And Mark even designed the castle's arches so that they looked like demonic faces, casting the stonework directly from the castle they were filming out of so that everything looked natural. Nevermore Academy was actually built out of a castle in Romania, a setting that definitely lends to the show's eerie tone. Which of these well-kept secrets were you most surprised by? And did you notice anything that we might have missed? We love a good mystery, so make sure to keep the guesses going in the comment section down below. With so many references and Easter eggs, there's no way that you've managed to solve all of the mysteries on the Netflix series Wednesday.